I was watching both of the 100 Thieves games from this past week on stream. These were games where 100 Thieves won both of them, one versus Team Liquid and one versus Cloud9. And the amount of misplays and throwing from both teams, or all three teams, so 100 Thieves, Liquid, and Cloud9, these games was egregious. Like, these are not good teams. People like 100 Thieves because Sniper is an exciting player. And that's part of what makes the LCS compelling right now. Is Sniper is a very fun player to watch. And I do think actually has incredibly high upside. So I'm not trying to shit on him. Quid has had some very good games as well.
He's been way better now. By the way, now I get why people in Europe, if you don't know, Quid actually was a guy hyped to some of the EU teams. I think maybe like XL or someone was going to sign him. Like, I know there was a bunch of teams actually were looking at this guy Quid. I can see why though. He looked ass last year, but he looks way better this split. Way better.
Yeah. Now, maybe part of that is because he's getting a bunch of Taliyah picks, and like Taliyah's really strong right now and has been buffed, and people are playing compositions into Taliyah that maybe we just shouldn't be playing. Like, you guys, you can't play a bunch of low range champions into Taliyah. Like, that's not, you can't do that and like win a game of League of Legends. You know, good luck trying to engage on her. Good luck hopping around this Callista right in front of her. It's very difficult. And she, the Q was buffed now. She's now a flex pick as well. So, I mean, she always was a flex pick, but now even more so a potential jungle option. Like, I assume we're going to see that when LCK starts to come back onto the Taliyah buff patch. So it's been good drafting, I think, by 100 Thieves. But I got to say, guys, if you think that these are clean games of League of Legends and that somehow this means that Europe is worse, like, Mad Lions is a much better team than most of the teams that are in LCS right now. Perhaps honestly, perhaps all of the teams. Like, maybe not FlyQuest, but outside of that, big mistakes. 100 Thieves, their bot lane is garbage, guys. Like, Ayla is not a good player of the game League of Legends. He constantly makes mechanical mistakes. He isn't in the right position a lot of the time. He literally is like engaging fights with Alistar before waiting for his ult to come out. He's like flanking on Alistar and getting chunked out by an Orianna in the game against Liquid before his ult can come up. He is going into the backline when it's not possible for anybody to follow up on him. It's just very bizarre play. And Quid, River, and Sniper, the top side's very exciting. The bottom side is not good.
Well, here's what's funny, Monty. I've got the analogy for you. You know, my analogy in Europe is that BDS's success shows how bad the other teams are fundamentally on like a basic level of coaching and team strategy and understanding the way the game's play. The team that does that in LCS is fucking Team Liquid. There's another team that has no business. Like, you better hope this isn't like the fucking second team for MSI, guys. It's not going to be good because this team would never win any games. But against LCS, they actually, just by doing like real macro, just fucking win the game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it mad?
And Team Liquid has had some strengths in macro. I mean, I thought they completely dominated the game against Cloud9 in a great, like, they played an excellent macro game, just objectively fucking great macro game against Cloud9. They got C9 got completely rolled because of the macro. So not taking away from Liquid's macro, the problem is like, for every strength of what we talk about with the LCS teams, the other side of that is really glaring flaws, guys.
Yes.
Like, APA and Yun are your carries on Team Liquid. Core JJ has not been good. The reason why, Liquid is losing the match to 100 Thieves is because, like, they use a bunch of critical ultimates that they need to team fight, particularly the Taric ult, which then allows 100 Thieves to engage because Team Liquid is hanging around waiting for that engage afterwards. It was crazy because I watched both 100 Thieves games back to back this week on my stream. Okay. And I was literally like, I am watching the same game again when I watched 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid, then 100 Thieves versus Cloud9, because I literally watched Cloud9 and Team Liquid having significant advantages compositionally in terms of game state, everything like that. Then what happens is both Team Liquid and Cloud9 use key ultimates in stupid ways and then engage a team fight anyway in the mid lane without those ultimates and then lose the game off of that in the late game. Both games. It's crazy. Like, Cloud9 in their game, they just toss out a Sejuani ult, which is their primary form of engage, and then they just decide to go in anyway. And it's like, well, you actually just don't have the tools that you need in order to team fight any longer. If you don't have Bard ult and you don't have Sejuani ult, you cannot go in. If you're Team Liquid and you don't have Taric ult anymore, well, 100 Thieves all of a sudden has access to your backline and you can't kite this out, and then you lose. So why are we using these ults pointlessly and then going in? You know what I mean?
Also, I did think to myself, Monty, bearing in mind, APA is already the mid laner you can incredibly cynically ban out. Why are you letting him have the Aryan Sol? He doesn't even have that many good champions. You're literally just giving him his fucking champion. What are you doing? Just ban it. Just don't let him have it.
I mean, like, look, I don't really know, what is going on a lot of the time in the LCS. It's a confusing league. I think that it's more fun. And here's why I think it's more fun. And people may be thinking it's, how can I put this? I think the top 4 teams in the LEC are better than the top 4 teams in the LCS. It's undeniable with G2. I think you can make a pretty strong case that, Fnatic, BDS, and Mad Lions are all, the only team that maybe would be in that conversation is FlyQuest at the current point in time.
Sure.
The issue is that the bottom of the LCS is significantly more competitive than the bottom of the LEC. And I think that's the difference, right? Is that there's less of a difference between the top and the bottom of the league than there is in LEC. But the top is just, it looks to me like it's a lot higher in LEC right now. Just significantly cleaner plays, players doing, like, knowing what jobs they're supposed to do, not just willy-nilly going in when you blow key cooldowns that affect the way that your team compositions interact with each other, and it's, deeply unwise. But 100 Thieves basically caught 2 big throws in almost exact same fashion from Cloud9 and Team Liquid. And people are overlooking, like, the very glaring weakness of that bot lane.
We need to ask, here's the thing, we need to actually do like an intervention on this Cloud9 lineup, Monty, because this is actually on paper a fucking super team. Every player can be all LCS level in theory, and no joke, you should actually have straight up like 3 players just competing with each other for the MVP. Like, in a sane world, Cloud9 would be top, win almost every game. Like I say, it would basically be Blabber, fucking Jojo, and Berserker just compete with each other to see who wins the MVP. And then you go to MSI as like triumphant champion. Dude, this is actually going to be, if it continues on, one of the most embarrassing super team failures ever. Like, everyone loved to laugh at like the fucking Team Liquid one a few years ago.
Vitality.
Dude, that team was still, they were still making the, I'm talking about an LCS though. They were still making the playoffs. Like, the Team Liquid lineup there used to just fail in playoffs. Like, Cloud9 last year didn't win, but that was only in the playoffs that they failed. You go to FlyQuest, okay, by summer they were shit. Like, in the spring, they still made the play. Like, this is actually really bad. Like, dude, there's a world for real where Cloud9 could finish like 4th or 5th at the end of this split. That's mental. That is mental. That should be impossible with this roster. It even still looks good now when you look at it on paper. You look at it now, it should be good to go and be number 1. Look at this roster, mate.
Yeah, the roster is clearly the best on paper roster in the
LCS. Yeah, it's one of the best ever made in theory. Like, that offseason looked like they just won it straight up, didn't it? They just killed it.
Yeah, I think everybody basically predicted them to be number 1. Because we in FlyQuest case, you just had to think that Masu, you had to have reasonable expectations for Masu. I think Masu has outstripped all expectations of him. I think this guy is like legitimately really good mechanically. But even then, you look at the games that FlyQuest loses, oftentimes they're losing them because their bot lane is making mistakes in the laning phase. And it's fucking up the game for the rest of the people. If they just strap into Inspired's ride, for the most part, he just carries them over the finish line and they don't have to think, and they can just, Masu could just use his mechanics in order to win the game. But he's a rookie, some mistakes are going to be expected. You couldn't have expected them, I think, you couldn't predict them to be in the number 1 position, because I don't think it was reasonable to expect this performance out of Masu and Busio. And Cloud9 obviously collapsing is shocking and surprising in and of itself, even if they did almost have a 2-0 week this week, and should have had a 2-0 week this week. Like that, the loss to 100 Thieves was really baffling. But yeah, I think I think if you're actually talking about this, the strength of the top end of LCS, it is not good right now. There's definitely not a team that we look at and say, this team plays, like, think about BDS, for example, Thorin. There isn't a BDS equivalent that has kind of mid-tier players and plays an extremely, refined style. People will say Team Liquid, but like BDS's carries are a lot better. They're a lot better than Liquid's carries. And Liquid having to win off of pure macro is delightful to me because of what I like about League of Legends, but is, I admit, a red flag when it comes to any kind of serious playoff or international performance.
It's basically the angle people just miss about Dom's point about BDS. His point is the reason why he agrees with me that them being near the top of the table implies something quite negative about LEC is because actually they are arriving at these like dragon fights and team fights, sometimes behind or in a position where normally the other team should be favored to close out. And then what they do is they win every team fight. Like they actually turn it around. Well, the problem with that is one, you're going to arrive in a way worse position if you ever get there against the international team. And two, you're not just going to out team fight from behind against like fucking LPL teams. Like that's just not going to work for you. So yeah, the problem always is you don't want to just have the strength and then not the players. You want to have the players and the strength. Like the style can't be the entire thing that carries you. It can only get you so far. So in a domestic scene, a style can get you near the top. If you go international, the players have to play the game. You need actual brilliant players to make brilliant players, especially if you're playing against LPL and LCK teams. So you're not going to have a chance to win. There's a reason why, if you look at the teams that can win, like even that aforementioned Rogue team I mentioned, they had players that were very, very good. They had Odoamne at his peak. They had Larson when he was really good. Drimby was like a fucking unique support player. Like, you go down these rosters, if you sent Team Liquid and BDS to MSI now, they'd just get murked, mate. They wouldn't even be in these games. It'd be embarrassing. Like, what lane are they winning through, Nothing. Maybe an Adam crazy pick. That's about it. That's about the only one in both teams combined.
I remember we kind of saw how that worked last year at Worlds, didn't we?
And they've got to be used to it by now. Yeah. The other problem is it's not the first time you're meeting him. Now you've met him a few times. You've seen this before. You've scrimmed him even. Like, he's an own quantity. You wanted that when it was like a bad outside like Darien that you don't even know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
It's all good because the LCS viewership's up 4%. So the best part is like 4% even sounds like some sort. What I love is we've already entered the phase where he could just be talking on like breakfast news about like, the economy. Like, well, it's not a recession because look, like job percentages are up 4% if we just include all economics. Like when they just do all that shit, just fuck with numbers 24/7. Like we've entered that phase already. We're supposed to just look up while Mark Z's talking on TV from the newspaper and go, up 4%, eh? Oh, jolly good. And then just go back to fucking, there's a cake show tomorrow. Interesting, right? Give me a fucking break. Give me a break.
Also, I mean, if viewership is up 4% and you're giving credit to the parity of the league and the excitement of like all of these new rookies, which are potentially, drawing, a bunch of old veterans coming back, some rookies that Sniper like and Masu who are looking potentially better than we thought they would, and maybe drawing some more eyeballs. Like, what happens when this league is not so even when it comes to competition, right? If the theory is that the competitive nature of the league and the evenness of the league is helping out in viewership, then what happens when it goes back to being very top heavy, as most of the League of Legends leagues have been in the past?
The only way that news would have been better for Mark Z if they were like, and we've made this feature package about our exciting new viewers, and it's all just people speaking in Portuguese. Like LCS is muy bueno. Here's Gabriel, long-time viewer of the LCS, big 100 Thieves fan.
He says, Caralho.
And that, in fact, was a popular tweet. We got a lot of Caralho tweets over the weekend. So send them
many
into
Caralhos. I noticed they haven't put any Caralho tweets onto the LCS, which, by the way, every time I'm VOD reviewing these LCS games, I have to go through like 10 tweets in a row that cover the entire item box. You know what I mean? Sure. So like, I'm like, please, at the start of the game, I'm like, please, can I please see the UI so I know what's happening in this fucking game? Right? You will not give me replays, so I actually have to see what's going on right now. But instead, I'm
seeing a tweet where it's like, influencer says 100T LFG exclamation mark. They're like, oh, big news coming in for the. It's just nonsense. It's completely worthless tweets and it covering actual information.
I hate it so much.
So insane. I know, it's so bonkers. Because I also wonder this: why does the box have to be that big? Make it like a little ticker, like ESPN, you know, on the top. Like, why does it have to cover the whole thing? Like a giant tweet. It's mental in it. It's so bad. What a world. And always, by the way, the tweets always look so astroturfed, like some mad 1984 Orwellian, like LCS is double plus good. Me and my friends are all watching this weekend at Marksy. Like, what are you talking about? It's just always the most bullshit blowing smoke up your ass tweet as well. I know, it's so fucking bullshit.
So the worst one, I was watching the 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid match, Thorin, and somebody was like, yeah, it's Pokemon versus Naruto, 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid, because those are the anime shows that they've done like merch collaborations with. And I was like, please, I just want to watch esports, please. I really just don't want to look at the Pokemon versus Naruto fucking tweets in the whole box while I can't see the UI.
Also, those aren't even like modern day. That's like some really old school anime.
That's what I said,
like,
dude. That's look, I know Pokemon is still popular, but like that is the most boomer anime shit to tweet.
What next? In the middle of the game, hey guys, we want to hear your voices. Which is better, Pokemon or Digimon? It's like that reference is about 25 years old. What are you talking about, you lunatic? It's so old at this point in time. Probably more than that.
But Thorin, those are the partnerships that 100 Thieves and Team Liquid got for their merchandise. So that's why they said it. But I love how they're like, you know what? We're gonna include social media, and we're gonna appeal to those kids. Gen Z loves checks notes, Naruto, and Pokemon. I'm like, no, that's millennial shit, man. Dude, that's from my generation.
I know, it's so bad. And by the way, I pointed out in the past, but I will never ever. This is what's mad. Is it shows how when the right emotions get activated, it can make you forget bad things that happened in life. It's sort of proof you can get past trauma. Because what's sad is I now have, because she's not around causing trouble anymore, I actually have really positive memories of Frisky. Because I always remember that one I told you where I saw her doing that stream of Pokemon United, and she was raging like she was in a solo queue game in League. But when it's Pokemon, it's just so much funnier. Like it would just be her like raging her ass off, like this fucking Bulbasaur. Is he ever going to join the group or what? Is he just sidelining? And it's like somehow the Pokemon name being involved just makes it like 1,000 times funnier. Like I was crying laughing with that. It was too good. It was too good, man. It's too good.
Maybe there is evidence that these tweets like somehow get people to watch the show more.
Doesn't seem like it, but yeah.
I find it hard to believe, but it's like I don't understand why we keep arriving at this conclusion, because it happens in esports from time to time. Some people are like, you know what, we should include more social media interaction, and then you just get a bunch of dumbass tweets in your broadcast. Everybody's like, this fucking sucks. Put it away. No, we don't like this. Then it goes away for a while, and somebody else is like, but what if we put tweets in our broadcast? Why does this happen over and over and over again?
The obvious thing that tilts me the most about this, right? Obviously, as we're implying, you and I would not, in fact, put tweets onto a broadcast. But if someone said to me, Monty, that you have to, they're not even doing it well. Because you know what pisses me off? They are just like, let's fucking go Cloud9, C9 fam in the, C9 win. Like, it's never actually like, oh, fucking some expert like Peter Dunn's watching the game. Like, I would have drafted a different one on like R2. Like, it's never actually like interesting shit that we read Twitter for to see like during the match. Like if you actually put those tweets up, maybe that'd be interesting. Maybe someone makes a shrewd point about the comp, or maybe someone says something like, hey guys, watch out in solo queue, the top lane has been they never put that tweet up, I noticed. It's never actual analysis. It's just some generic like, yay, isn't LCS great, guys? It's like some fucking brainwashing. Essentially, as far as I can tell, the purpose of that tweet, Monty, is like those experiments where, the ones where a real person goes into a room, a doctor's office, and everyone in there's an actor, and then they all do weird shit, and eventually the normal person goes along with it, and it just shows how social conditioning works. Like that's what I feel like these tweets are supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to see that and go, wait, Actually, I'm having a great time watching the LCS. Let's fucking go. Except because it's Riot, you can't even say let's fucking go. You have to say LFG. Like, just pretend that means stuff. LFG. Give me a break.
Dude, I remember the last time this happened. You know what's funny is it's not even, when I say it's like cyclical, it's not even cyclical like between different esports tournament organizers or production teams. It's literally cyclical within LCS. I remember they were doing this during the pandemic where they were like, well, we don't have an audience, so what if we just put a bunch of tweets on screen? And like, it was literally just wrong analysis a lot of the time. Like, it was fans who had really bad analytic points that were very distracting from the actual analysis of the game. And I don't get it. I don't know what else there is really to say about LCS at the current point in time. We're going on a 2-week break. Everything seems to be up in the air. FlyQuest appears to be the best team. I think everybody else has serious issues. I am hoping that this 2-week break, Thorin, will actually cause these teams to improve. That's my hope. It's been fun to watch it, but it's not going to be fun to watch.
I've got a darker joke to end the LCS segment on, which is, this is where, low-key, part of me actually wishes I did live in LA. Because what I'd love to do is go through Culver City, where those big highway bridges go over the roads that go under. And now when I'm walking past that homeless encampment, I want to see a big tent with a red fist on it and a bunch of guys, and they're like, hey, Thorin, is that you? Hey, remember me from season 3? Remember that card I gave you with the free RP? I'll be like, listen, you homeless, get the fuck away from me. Like, and then I'll walk past their tent, because obviously they'd all be out there now, won't they? Mate, that's so mad. Like, because the maddest thing about that detail is, you know, the story originally went from like, there's probably not that many esports people. And then some of the names were actually like big names. They were like real old school people from like that. These were the people, the joke is, who actually were like part of building out League in the old days, like 10 plus years ago. It was wild, wasn't it? I couldn't believe some of the names I actually saw gone there. It's fucking mad.
Well, see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.